So we're here at the CCA workbench, and Dave,
Yes,
you
we
know,
are.
red fishing is what they do in Texas.
Yeah.
And catching big trout. But
Yeah.
this week, let's talk a little bit about how the fellas do it in Texas.
Well, a lot of times they get out of the boat and wade. I grew up doing a lot of that because I never had a boat, and I enjoy that because I didn't have a boat. But you don't have to have a boat in Texas for sure. There's plenty of places where you can go, especially in the bays and areas where these redfish, especially in the spring, they'll come up in there chasing the bait. The mullet comes through and the anchovies come in on the spring tides, and that's usually when the redfish start showing up. And if you're going to be wading in that water, especially in the early part of the year, you might want to get yourself a nice pair of thermal waders. Some that'll keep some heat in, a nice pair of boots. A lot of times the heavier, thicker waders will come with boots in them. Right. But as the summer progresses, you can get into lighter, really like just pretty much rubber pants with suspenders on them. And then when you buy those for like $10, you can put a pair of these on, and you don't have to spend a whole lot of money to have waders that'll keep you dry and comfortable, because that's really what counts is staying dry. And be careful. You might want to, if you get those rubber pants, make sure you put some other pants on underneath of them, because when you're wearing those rubber pants and the water's cold and it sucks down on you, it's like you're not wearing any pants at all. You got to put the sweatpants on or something underneath of them.
All right, so what kind of rod they like to use in Texas?
Well, you're usually going to use a bait caster, because you cast a lot of heavier stuff, a lot of topwater plugs, a lot of jigs and stuff like that. So they use a lot of bait casters, and not only that, you don't have to worry about getting a lot of wind knots because you're wading. You don't have to worry about making really long casts. But if you're using a real heavy topwater plug and a bait caster with this 10-pound braid, you can cast that thing a mile.
Yeah.
So
no doubt.
Yep, and a topwater plug for redfish is really great, especially this time of year. Redfish, they love to eat crabs, they love to eat shrimp, they love to eat those anchovies in there, and the mullet. And those are probably the four main foods that they're going to be eating in those Texas bays and inlets and whatnot.
Now, the fellas throw a lot of soft plastics once the water temperature heats up and they get past that early morning.
Yep, this chicken on the chain here, the Bass Assassin, the 4-inch or 5-inch sea shads are both good. They like to use the glow when the water gets really clean and clear. They like to use the glow, either the 4 or the 5-inch sea shad. And they'll put it on a jig head, either rigged, because you want to be able to make those long casts. So, anytime you can add a little bit of weight to them, to get them out there further and bounce those things on the bottom,
So let me ask you like the silver or the chartreuse jig head in Texas, Dave?
I don't think it makes much of a difference.
Really?
I really don't.
Okay.
I've never been
Seems like they do put chartreuse on everything.
Well,
they put chartreuse on lunch.
If you put chartreuse on everything, you're going to catch everything on chartreuse. I mean, that's just the way those things work. That's the way colors work. Now, with the topwater plugs, you want to try to, especially if you're fishing for redfish, you want to use a smaller topwater plug, because the redfish, he eats with usually he's got his face in the mud, his mouth is underneath. So if you're using a great big bodied plug with a high profile and he comes up to the top with that big old head of his, he's pushing a lot of water in front of him. Right. And a lot of times if you've got a big buoyant plug sitting there, it's going to move out of the way when he tries to lift his face up and eat it with his underslung mouth.
Good point.
So if you want to have a smaller plug with a little profile, a lower profile that sits low in the water, like my favorite bait of all time, which catches both trout and redfish in great quantities,
the chug.
Is the chug bug. And it sits, like this in the water, so it's down in the water after that initial chug. And also the Skitter V, I like using that again because it sits down in the water. That V-shaped hull makes the thing sit down in the water a little better. And I love to use that thing too. They love to eat it.
The key, Dave. These are some really good points. What I've noticed happened over the years of guiding is that a lot of times people see that fish come up underneath them, or they come up and they pop at it. Guys, don't freak out. Just keep twitching, keep chugging, depending on the type of lure you're using, and let him take it down. Once it's down and it's gone, that's when you go ahead and set the hook. He'll eat it.
What happens most of the time with the topwater plug is people jerk it out of the fish's mouth.
Yeah.
They see, because you can see the bite, and that's the only reason I go fishing is to watch a fish eat.
Yeah.
So I like to use that chug bug all the time. And when you see that fish eat the chug bug, if your immediate reaction is to jerk it away, you're going to jerk it away. You're going to pull it right out of his mouth before he gets down and away. And he's probably not going to come back if you do that.
Right.
Now, if you just let him eat it and then start to wind, and then he comes tight, you're going to get it. You're going to catch him. If you don't catch him, and you just wind and he doesn't come tight and the plug floats up, you get another bite out of him.
Right.
You jerk on it, ain't gonna
Good
happen.
advice from the CCA workbench over here, Dave. Bree, where are we going
Don't
next?
freak out.
Don't freak out.
Don't freak out, guys.